Love has long been seen as a prize to win on screen.
I think that's my biggest dream, to be your girl, to love you more than anything.
But how important that prize was to a character's motivations as a whole was generally split. For men, it was just a nice cherry on top, but for women, it was often the animating drive in their life.
Her dream man. Her backup dream man.
But for as long as it's been a trope, there have also been examples pushing back against that conception of romantic love. So let's take a deeper look at the love as a prize trope, how it shaped our views of relationships, why it fell apart, and how modern updates haven't gotten rid of love, but just changed what it means to win. For so long, for so many female characters on screen, no matter what their lives are like, the main focus of their life is often to find a guy that will fall in love with them. They might have great friends, a cool job, and seem like they've generally got a pretty awesome life, but they always feel like something is missing, and that something is always a dude.
I am someone who is looking for love. Real love. Consuming. Can't live without each other love.
There are certainly female characters who didn't get stuck in that trap because they had bigger fish to fry in their stories, but a surprising number of women characters are forced to operate with this idea that finding love, or some approximation of love, is the sole thing they need to focus on, the only thing that will make them feel whole.
Everyone needs a man.
These characters often feel like they're being left behind in life because they don't have that perfect relationship. They might have chosen to focus on other things up to this point and are now worried that it might mean that they'll never get their chance to find the one.
Everyone I know is either getting married or getting pregnant or getting promoted, and I'm getting coffee. And it's not even for me.
But her desire for a guy isn't just some abstract, oh yeah, that'd be nice idea. Hunting down and capturing the one drives her more than anything. She thinks that winning this prize, aka tying down the guy, is how she can prove her worth, both to herself and to society at large, that tells her that the caliber of guy she gets is a direct reflection of her own self-worth.
Aren't you afraid people are gonna look down on you?
At least I'm loved.
Because of this mindset, she thinks finding the one has to be a challenge. If it's too easy, then that means that he's not really worth it. When she is confronted with a guy who just likes her for who she is and doesn't make her chase him, she can't believe that it could be true love, because in her eyes, love should be work.
I'm used to the hunt, and this is effortless. It's freaking me out.
Because this search for love is the central motivation of her life, she's willing to shove aside all of her friendships, her job, even her family, and change everything about herself if that's what it takes to get the guy she desires.
You're obsessed with talking about big, and frankly, we can't take it anymore.
It's out of our league.
What is this, an intervention?
Yes, stop her before she obsesses again.
She's willing to fully erase her true self in an effort to capture her man because she believes that that version of her, the version of her that is good enough for him, is who she's really supposed to be. In Euphoria's second season, we saw how Cassie's desperate desire to be wanted and claimed by a guy, especially one like Nate, who was seen as an ideal guy sitting at the top of the high school food chain, caused her to completely blow up her life and ruin her real, actually loving relationship with her best friend.
I would have never done this to you.
Once she realizes that getting with Nate could be a possibility, that goal completely overtakes everything else in her life. Every waking moment becomes dedicated to becoming the kind of girl that Nate would be interested in. And because she sees this as a search for love, aka the most important thing, she can't even fully comprehend why it all falls apart so spectacularly.
I'm pointing out the principle.
What principle?
The don't your best friend's boyfriend principle.
But thankfully, not everyone's story is so miserable. Some characters who do initially start out on this love as a prize path actually learn from their mistakes and actually end up with happier, more fulfilling lives because of it.
I realize you and Daddy were upset when I didn't marry Barry and get the big house in the suburbs with all the security and everything, but God, this is just so much better for me.
While Carrie Bradshaw essentially spent her entire life post-meeting Big moping around trying to force him to love her and be her the one in the way she desired, Charlotte plotted a different path. She began the series as the friend who was most militantly on the hunt for love, with rules and regulations to match. But then she did get the guy who, on paper at least, seemed like everything she wanted, and it did not work out. But she didn't just stick around forever trying to force things to work or completely give up. She opened up her mind to more possibilities of what love and the perfect guy could look like, and through that new mindset, did end up finding the one for her. And she importantly realized that romantic love isn't everything, and made sure to hold her friends close, too.
Maybe we could be each other's soulmates, and then we could let men be just these great, nice guys to have fun with.
That sounds like a plan.
And while Cassie becomes completely subsumed by her quest for love, the betrayal actually awakens Maddie to how unhealthy her relationship with Nate was, and how important it is that she moves on and leaves him behind if she wants any hope of a happy, fulfilling life.
Out of sight, out of mind.
On the flip side of the coin, with male character stories, getting the girl is usually just a nice little bonus, another feather in his cap to show how cool and desirable he is, but certainly not the main drive of his narrative or focus of his life.
Double pump?
It squirts the fuel in so you can go faster.
Oh. I like to go faster.
He has a lot going on, and romance isn't really something that even crosses his mind, unless he happens to come across a pretty lady on his adventures, and even then, it's usually fleeting. While for the female characters, getting the guy is framed as the prize of her life, for the men, she's just an extra trophy.
Not the man I knew 10 years ago.
It's not the years, honey. It's the mileage.
One offshoot of this trope that was big in the 80s and 90s was a version where the male character didn't appreciate his wife until she's about to leave him. And then, through 90 minutes of action in which she either does not feature or functions as a damsel in distress, he realizes that he does actually care for her and wants to keep her around.
Hi, honey.
She and her love aren't the prize, but instead the keeping of her, and usually the taking back of her from some nerdy money guy that she started dating is the real win for these characters. When we do see male characters who position love and getting the girl as their main objective, they're pretty much always creepy nice guys. They do focus their energies around their hunt for the one, but only because they see her as an object that they deserve to have.
She can't say it's not meant to be. It is meant to be, and you know why? 'Cause I mean it to be.
While they don't see the one as someone that will complete them in the way the female versions of the trope do, they do have the similar drive of feeling that capturing this person will be what allows them to finally prove their self-worth to the world at large. And while the female version of the trope will change everything about herself to get the guy, the male version thinks that the woman he desires should completely mold herself into what will make him happy.
You want me to quit my job so you can feel like you have a girlfriend?
As time has gone on, we've begun seeing more and more stories that flip this trope, or even do away with it completely. Take classic Legally Blonde. Elle is initially singularly motivated to change up her entire life in an effort to get Warner back, but she pretty quickly starts to realize that that isn't the best place to focus her energy.
I even hired a coppola to direct my admissions video. All to get my boyfriend Warner back, and now he's engaged to this awful girl, Vivian, so it was all for nothing.
It takes her a while longer to fully accept that that dream she had of Warner being the one isn't the future she wants, but it's made easier for her by the fact that she does have other things going on in her life. In addition to acing her classes and making friends out of enemies,
Look, he likes you.
He's giving me kisses.
She's also the one that saves the day in the end. Her prize is a well-rounded, fulfilling life surrounded by people that care about her. In Bend It Like Beckham, Jess isn't interested in guys or a relationship at all. Her main driver is becoming a better player.
Your sister's getting engaged, and you're sitting here watching this skinhead boy.
Mom, it's Beckham's corner.
She does end up falling for a guy, but she doesn't give up her life or her future for him. She still keeps her plans to go off to America to play soccer with her best friend Jules.
Letting me go is a really big step for my mum and dad. I don't know how they'd survive if I told them about you two.
I guess there's not much point with you going to America anyway.
In a society where women are often told that the main thing they should be focusing on is finding a guy and settling down, it can feel daunting to do anything else. But in stories like these, we can see how fulfilling it is to keep fostering your full self. And if romantic love does come along, awesome, but you don't have to singularly orient your life around just that. The love as a prize trope feels pretty outdated to us today, and that's because we've thankfully learned the same lesson as many of our faves, that changing your entire life just to try to find or hold on to what society tells you should make you happy and complete isn't any way to live your life. And stories have also opened up to the fact that love can be an animating drive for men too, and not just in a creepy nice guy way.
You vex me!
And what is it do you think you do to me?
We also see more stories grappling with the reality from the other side. Characters who did finally net that dream person they had been hunting for, only to realize they've only ended up trapping themselves.
I wonder if the sad I'd be without you would be less than the sad I get from being with you.
There's also thankfully been a step back from those strict binaries around gender and sexuality and relationships altogether on screen, which has allowed us the opportunity to see all different kinds of ideas of what love can entail. And importantly, not as a prize that one must struggle to win, but as something positive that you build with someone or someones who care about you just as much as you care about them.
I know I am imperfect, but I will humble myself before you because I cannot imagine my life without you.
And crucially, the biggest shift has been in focusing on allowing characters to actually take the time to figure out what they actually want in their friendships, in their relationships, and in life as a whole. There's no one person or thing we can win that will magically make us whole and turn us into the person we daydream about being. But if we instead focus on loving ourselves and surrounding ourselves with people who truly care about us, we can build a life that definitely feels like a win.
This shit is hard and confusing. The last thing you need is to feel worse because you're not feeling something you're supposed to feel. Do what feels good to you.
The crazy ex-girlfriend is every guy's greatest fear. She comes out of nowhere, hell-bent on stirring up drama and ruining her ex's chances at new happiness without her. The pop culture version of the crazy ex can be terrifying, irritating, or genuinely in crisis. But countless movies and shows present this emotionally distressed woman without context as to the circumstances that got her there, framing her merely as an unpredictable liability and a problem that has to be eliminated. The crazy ex-girlfriend is a specter, sometimes even a literal ghost, that also haunts women, perhaps even more intimately, as they strive not to be compared to her.
I wonder what she's thinking about you, taking her husband and using her name.
The age-old myth of the distraught ex-girlfriend who desperately pines for or violently rampages against her lost partner reflects the belief that women are more codependent than men in romantic relationships, even though research shows no link between gender and codependency. And in reality, men are far more likely to resort to aggressive behavior after a breakup, so why is it that women are painted as universally responding to uncoupling with quote-unquote insanity?
You won't answer my calls, you change your number. I'm not gonna be ignored, Dan.
Here's our take on what the crazy ex-girlfriend represents and why she doesn't really exist at all. In the ancient Greek myth of Jason and the Argonauts, Medea, sorceress and scorned ex-wife, seeks revenge when Jason marries another woman by murdering the children they had together. The name Medea, derived from the Greek word for plans or cunning, establishes the long-standing idea that divorced wives plot to seek revenge at all costs. In the 19th century, the crazy ex again made frequent appearances as an unhinged villain with almost supernatural overtones.
My wife. My own demon.
In Jane Eyre, Mr. Rochester keeps his unpredictable wife Bertha locked away in a secret room, a harsh measure the audience is led to believe is necessary because she is in fact crazy. Before Jane meets Bertha, she thinks a ghost lives in the house, and there's likewise a spectral nature to the crazy ex, who's the title character of Daphne du Maurier's 1938 novel Rebecca. The deceased wife of the narrator's husband, Rebecca de Winter, at first seems like a beautiful ideal the new Mrs. de Winter can't live up to.
You'll never replace her. You can't replace her.
No, he can't love you.
Because you're not her.
But it turns out that she was a demonic, heartless, unfaithful woman who still haunts and torments her ex-husband and his new wife, even from beyond the grave. There's something universal about the image of a past lover as a ghost that a new couple wishes would go away. But another source of the trope of the crazy ex-girlfriend or wife you can't be free of lies in that pesky until death do us part marriage vow. Throughout most of American history, married couples who sought divorce faced long, arduous processes, given that obtaining a divorce often meant proving adultery.
You want a divorce? New York State, you need to prove adultery. I mean, prove it in a court of law. That's hard to do.
To simply be an ex-wife could mean you were widely assumed to be unfaithful or immoral. Moreover, women have not tended to be granted equality on the grounds for divorce. The 1857 Matrimonial Causes Act, passed in the UK Parliament, allowed men to divorce their wives for one act of adultery, while women could only divorce husbands who were physically abusive, incestuous, or bestial, as well as unfaithful. Being at risk of losing everything in a divorce, as ex-wives often did, could of course make anyone a little crazy.
And I'm not rich. Everything I had belongs to him. That's English law.
The through line between women who were branded as crazy exes in the past and the women who are branded them now is power. In the feminist prequel to Jane Eyre, 1966's Wide Sargasso Sea, author Jean Rhys imagines Bertha Mason's perspective and shows us a woman who's been horribly mistreated and cheated on.
Traitor! Fornicator!
To a contemporary audience, it's the unchecked total control Mr. Rochester has over his wife that seems threatening. Helen Small, a professor of English language and literature, writes that during the 19th century, tales of women driven to insanity by the death or treachery of their lovers were deeply ingrained in the culture's conception of femininity. Looking back on all this, we can see how the myth of the vengeful, crazy ex-girlfriend was a self-perpetuating one. Draconian laws that favored the husband's rights and governed women's bodies, and deep-seated, inescapable, untrue stereotypes caused intense moments and expressions of female frustration, which in turn have been used to prove that females are unstable and justify laws restricting them. So what forms does the crazy ex-girlfriend take in more recent and contemporary pop culture? The show Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is a nuanced and hilarious takedown of the way we so quickly jump to calling women crazy.
She's the crazy ex-girlfriend. That's a sexist term.
The first season shows Rebecca performing an extreme of stereotypical crazy ex-girlfriend behaviors, moving across the country to be near an ex she briefly dated in summer camp as a teen and trying to steal him from his new girlfriend, all while pretending she just wants casual friendship. But the show unpacks all the crazy ex-girlfriend tropes, like the lies, the instability, and the proverbial daddy issues, humanizing them through a vulnerable, likable central character and digging deeper into why an ultra-smart, highly educated woman feels compelled to act this way.
So you're saying that I moved here from New York and I left behind a job that would have paid me $545,000 a year for a guy who still skateboards? That would be crazy, and I am not crazy.
Rebecca's deceptiveness comes from the expectation that to win over a guy, she must constantly project a likable, relaxed, cool girl persona that's inherently inauthentic. It's not just in Rebecca's imagination that guys expect this. After she finally gets the magical night she's been dreaming of with Josh, she momentarily slips up and reveals just how badly she wanted to be with him.
I moved here for you. The second I saw you on the street in New York, I knew.
And her full-on expression of passion for him immediately puts him off and causes him to distance himself. In the next season, Rebecca realizes that her relentless drive to seek the approval of an emotionally unavailable guy like Josh stems from feeling abandoned by her father. So when Rebecca embraces being the vengeful, crazy, scorned woman at the end of season 2,
Josh Chan must be destroyed.
The transformation has an empowering aspect. At least she's no longer internalizing the blame for why men have mistreated her.
All these men, they are the ones to blame.
Still, Rebecca can't fully heal until she looks honestly at the deeper issues she needs to address. The word crazy in the title is a reference to the way we casually demean our exes by flippantly turning mental health issues into an insult. But this assumed stigma and rigid expectations for acceptable behavior from female partners exacerbate very real mental health issues. Rebecca battles severe depression and anxiety, is delusional and erratic, hallucinates when stressed, and is eventually diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. This iteration of the ex-girlfriend undergoing a mental health crisis is nuanced and moving, highlighting that women we label as crazy may be acting out because they are hurting or traumatized. In the end, Rebecca resolves her issues by working on herself, turning her musical hallucinations into expressions of creativity in the world and not centering a man in her life.
When I'm telling my own story, for the first time in my life, I am truly happy.
It's like I just met myself.
However, this happy ending isn't always attainable for ex-girlfriends who are genuinely unwell. For Orange is the New Black's Lorna Morello, a guy she's only been on one date with comes to represent all of her hopes, dreams, and delusions about romantic relationships.
She left notes on my car, she threw trash on my lawn, she left voicemails yelling about how I wasn't helping enough with the dog. I don't even have a dog.
Without Rebecca's income and status privileges, including access to good mental health treatment, Lorna's obsession lands her in jail, where her delusions just intensify.
Clearly your time in prison has done nothing to bring you back into reality, you psycho.
Morello is driven by a loving an idea of love.
I deserve to be with somebody who loves love!
And the more that her life diverges, sometimes tragically, from her perfect dreams, the less she's able to accept reality. The mental health crisis ex-girlfriend shows how feeding women a traditional, restrictive idea of the successful relationship can be traumatizing, since life inevitably doesn't fit into that box. Her ex has moved on, but she's not even close to ready to see him with someone else. The jealous ex-girlfriend just wants to make her old boyfriend feel as terrible as she does, if only for a short time, and takes action in the form of mostly harmless pranks. But when stories align us with this character's perspective, her behaviors, however petty or childish, become almost universally relatable. Throughout Friends, Rachel seeks to destroy any relationship her ex Ross becomes involved in one episode manipulating Ross's new girlfriend Bonnie into shaving her head because she knows Ross won't find it attractive.
She said you gave her the razor.
But of course, the narrative situates us on Rachel's side and ultimately uses this as a catalyst for Rachel to admit she still has feelings for her ex.
You're the one who ended it, remember?
Yeah, because I was mad at you, not because I stopped loving you.
Ultimately, the wild behavior of the insanely jealous ex reveals a person who is hurting. Unlike the relatively tame jealous ex who a narrative more often aligns us with, women like Alex Forrest, Amy Dunn, Madison Bell, and Holly Viola are genuine psycho exes. Devious, deceptive, reckless, and bloodthirsty. This cold, calculating, but deeply delusional crazy ex-girlfriend is determined to either have the guy all to herself or ruin his life if she can't.
To fake a convincing murder, you have to have discipline.
She often lures the unwitting man with the promise of strings-free sex, a cartoonishly heightened version of that faux cool girl, whose casual act gives way to a deadly obsession with possessing the central guy, thus fueling the cliché that all women are secretly desperate for male commitment, no matter what they say. In Fatal Attraction, after Dan Gallagher ends his affair with Alex Forrest, she calls him at work, stalks him, threatens him, boils his daughter's pet rabbit, abducts his daughter, and tries to murder Dan's wife. Gone Girl's Amy Dunn goes on an equally brutal but much more elaborate rampage after to punish her husband Nick's affair and his plan to divorce her by framing him for her murder, taking on a crazy ex-wife from beyond the grave vibe when he initially thinks she's dead. Amy's thorough dedication to details plays into the idea that crazy exes are master manipulators who play on their ex-lovers' weaknesses to hurt them post-breakup.
Meticulously stage your crime scene with just enough mistakes to raise the specter of doubt.
In stories like Fatal Attraction and Gone Girl, an affair, emotional callousness, and terrible behavior by the guy spark the woman's fury, in light of which Fatal Attraction's depiction of Alex as an unstoppable psychotic force was met with criticisms from feminist writers. But this character's just causes for rage are overshadowed by her extreme, violent overreactions, making her the gold standard archetype of the irrational, jealous, dangerous ex that both men and women are conditioned to condemn and avoid.
I just want to be a part of your life.
Oh, this is the way you do it, huh? Showing up at my apartment?
Gone Girl examines this situation through Amy's perspective and actually originated the modern discussion of the cool girl act, specifically to explain why Amy goes off the deep end after her years of trying to embody her husband's fantasies just led to him trading her for a younger woman.
And found himself a newer, younger, bouncier cool girl.
It's in large part because of the persistence of stereotypes like the crazy ex-girlfriend that many women try to present themselves as her opposite, the cool girl, an exhausting performance that can lead them to tolerate mistreatment or repress legitimate anger during the relationship or as it's ending. And ironically, this may make it harder to process the usual breakup feelings in a healthy way and lead to more dramatic, crazy outbursts of pent-up emotion. The crazy in a fun way ex, frequently seen in comedies, is super bad for her ex-man, but he can't stay away. Toxic yet intoxicating.
Just need a second, it's Jane.
How's all that going?
We broke up. Oh, we're back on.
In Parks and Recreation, the only threat to Ron Swanson's stiff upper lip is his smart, sexy, and seductive ex-wife, Tammy. And though she's not a crazy ex, Claire from 30 Rock only needs one hookup in a few hours to set the fiercely independent business mastermind Jack Donaghy on a roller coaster she's driving.
Maybe Claire is right. Maybe if we have a baby together, things will calm down. I can't help it. I'm under a lot of pressure, and Claire is my escape. She is like a drug. I crave her all the time, even though she's bad for me.
The fun crazy ex may appear like just a wacky stock character, but the way she strips males of their power goes back to the idea that women gain power and prestige through snapping up high-status men and blinding them with sex and mind games. Ted Lasso offers an update to this type in Jane, Coach Beard's constantly on-again, off-again girlfriend who sounds like that demanding, erratic, toxic presence.
Oh shit. 2 missed calls from her. You're a net!
But once we actually get to see her with Coach Beard, is clearly the love of his life in a relationship that may be unconventional but works for them. All the crazy ex-girlfriend examples who are framed as one-dimensional tropes are actually being misunderstood by the audience. This intentional misrepresentation also extends to real life. Journalist Vicky Spratt wrote in Refinery 29 that even Princess Diana was, in media treatment of her time, a particularly notable example of the crazy ex trope. She was regularly dismissed as bonkers for doing things like calling out the royal family or her ex-husband on national TV because he had an affair.
Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
To this day, this type of portrait can be used to discredit women in political and professional spheres. Intelligencer wrote that Stephanie Grisham's publishing a tell-all about the Trump White House led to statements by Donald and Melania Trump and a whisper campaign from their allies that make Grisham out to be like a crazy ex-girlfriend who never had any power to begin with. In fiction, this type of male power play is explored in works like The Girl on the Train, where the spoiler alert plot twist of the movie is that the female protagonist had been gaslit by her husband into thinking she was a hopeless, violent alcoholic.
You told me I got you fired, but I didn't.
You were fired because you were everyone in the office!
And all these examples illustrate how impressions are completely shaped by how writers or real people frame women in a certain light to make their responses to situations seem crazy. In Friends, Janice Littman is Chandler's annoying, overbearing, and crazy ex, reviled by all of his friends. But in the earlier seasons, he uses her, toys with her, dumps her repeatedly, and generally just treats her horribly.
One of these times, it's just gonna be your last chance with me!
Even if the women handle a breakup really well, sexist ideas about female emotions still haunt how their behavior is interpreted.
Barney, I just want you to know I have no hard feelings. It wasn't the best idea for us to get involved. I hope we can still be friends.
She's gonna try to kill me.
So can ex-girlfriends ever really win? And how are the emotions of male boyfriends and exes dealt with in film and TV? As much space as the crazy ex-girlfriend takes up in Hollywood scripts and in the public consciousness, realistically, women are at far greater risk of being assaulted or harmed by a crazy ex-boyfriend. From Henry VIII's murdering 2 of his 6 wives, to countless headlines and true crime shows detailing the horrible deeds of vengeful men, the aggressive, unhinged ex-boyfriend is a very real phenomenon. For women in abusive relationships, deciding to become an ex is perhaps the greatest risk to their safety.
Why doesn't she just leave? It's incredibly dangerous to leave an abuser, because the final step
in the domestic violence pattern is kill her.
Both the crazy ex-girlfriend's and boyfriend's actions are guided by misplaced ideas about love and relationships that don't match reality. But the ex-boyfriend or husband's aggression represents a grave actual danger to the woman. The crazy ex-girlfriend is a manufactured or imagined threat, a trope based on sexist ideas of the female mental state, patriarchal marriage practices, and written into popular movies for the sake of drama by men who can't see past their own self-centered point of view. This may explain why feminist reimaginings of classic texts and the music of Taylor Swift and Olivia Rodrigo resonate with so many women. Their songs don't shy away from the intense emotions women feel during breakups, but flip the familiar script by not giving the guy the last word, instead lending the emotional crazy ex-girlfriend a real voice with nuance and without any shame about what she's felt.
I like writing songs about douchebags who cheat on me.
In past eras, a character like Morello would have been framed as just another Fatal Attraction copy, just as Christopher paints her. But today's stories are increasingly reflecting our interest in better understanding the complex mental health problems that underlie her destructive behavior. And recent female characters like Rebecca and Alexis from Schitt's Creek have shown us how a struggle with jealousy and negative thought patterns can be a catalyst for self-improvement. These more realistic depictions offer respect and understanding to the people on both sides of difficult relationship trials, and make it abundantly clear that the crazy ex-girlfriend has just been in our heads this whole time.
Some characters are obsessed with the idea of being in love, but then when they actually get it, they can't seem to stop themselves from running in the opposite direction. Across film and television, so many characters are plagued by commitment issues that keep them from actually being able to settle in and enjoy the relationships they manage to get into. So what is it that makes the idea of being in love so alluring, but the actual experience of it a lot more scary? Let's take a closer look.
Why I run, sometimes ride away from things.
Does it matter?
I think so.
Most characters on screen are looking for love to some degree, but some of them are really intense about their search. They've been shaped by our culture to believe that love is not only something they should want, but something that will complete them. And if they're a woman, that it's the only thing that should really matter in her life. This leads to them obsessively searching for that perfect relationship, that moment that everything finally just falls into place. Then they find the one, and for some reason it just doesn't work out. And then they find another one, only to find again something's wrong. And then they find another one, only to, surprise, realize that there's just some reason they can't commit.
There's no way for me to tell you this. At least there's no new way for me to tell you this. I just don't think things are gonna work out.
Sometimes this is just writers' way of getting rid of runner-up love interest before finally pairing up the movie or show's true pairing. But a lot of the time, it's an actual integral part of the character themselves. Their fear of commitment isn't just a plot contrivance, it's a real part of who they are, whether they're ready to admit it or not.
See, for all your big talk about being ready for a relationship, deep down you're single. It's your default setting.
A major roadblock for these types of characters is that they aren't really looking for love. They're looking for someone to love them.
I'm hopeless and awkward and desperate for love!
They often aren't actually searching for a real equal partnership. They just want to be the focus of someone else's desire. They approach their relationships as fantasies. They've already dreamed up how everything will be, how they'll come across, how the other person will behave, and how they'll have a happily ever after with no conflict. And when life doesn't turn out to be that way, they feel like everything is broken. They don't want to have to work on building love or to deal with the complexities of creating a life with another person. They just want it to appear perfect and without them having to actually contribute anything.
If you give up every time you have a fight with someone, you'd never be with anyone longer than... Oh...
Other times, characters can't commit because in their desperation to find that perfect love, they've been trying to cheat their way to their happily ever after by pretending to be something they're not. But then once they actually start getting close to anyone, they have to contend with the constant fear that their ruse will be uncovered, and so it's on to the next one. The most classic example of this is Maggie from Runaway Bride. She became locally famous because she ditched 3 separate fiancés at the altar, very literally running from the commitment. Before the the film even starts, and is on to the 4th when we meet her. Eventually, we come to find that her problem actually isn't with committing, so much as having to keep the charade up forever, because in every relationship, she spent the entire time pretending to be the woman she thinks each guy wants, instead of being herself. And so, every time she makes it to the altar, she realizes that if she goes through with it, she'll be stuck having to pretend to be that other version of herself forever.
When I was walking down the aisle, I was walking toward somebody who had no idea who I really was.
In the end, she's able to overcome her fear by taking the time to get to know herself, and after doing so, is able to enter into a relationship with someone who knows and likes the real her.
Do you, Maggie, take Ike to be your lawfully wedded husband?
Sometimes, characters who are on the other end of the spectrum, who genuinely aren't interested in settling down, get caught up in this trope because they keep getting caught up in situationships with people who do want that commitment. Robin on How I Met Your Mother is a classic example. She's open from the very beginning about how she's not at all interested in a serious relationship or settling down.
I mean, we barely know each other, and you're looking at me with that look like, let's fall in love and get married and have kids. It's a great look. But you're looking at the wrong girl.
She isn't afraid of or running from love. She just has other things that she's interested in and wants to focus on in her life. Bridgerton's eternal bachelor Benedict has no desire to settle down, and instead quite enjoys his life of romantic and sexual freedom. Though he's the second oldest son, he doesn't face the same pressures and fears around remaining unmarried that his sisters have to deal with. Tilly does open up to him about her feelings for him, but he just isn't looking for a steady relationship at this point in his life, and so turns her down. Because being in a relationship and finding love is seen as such an important part of life, characters like these can often find themselves getting labeled as commitment-phobes, even though they're not running from anything. They just know what they want, and it happens to not align with what society thinks they should want. For the characters that are, in fact, fleeing from commitment, however, there can actually be a lot of reasons for their cold feet. Because these characters are often pretty obsessed with being in a relationship, and in their obsession with idealized romance have learned how to, at least at first, say and do all of the right things, they usually don't have a hard time getting into relationships. But once they're actually in it, and being confronted by the messy, complicated reality of sharing your life with someone, the panic starts setting in. They start to realize that this love won't fix all of their problems, and that the other person won't always act exactly the way they imagined. And so then they start to just completely detach themselves from the relationship, no matter how intensely they were dedicated to it before.
24 hours ago, you were begging me to bring some other girl to my wedding, and now you're over her?
I've moved on.
Sometimes this fear stems from the idea that being in a solid, committed relationship means that they have to really grow up and get their own act together. Settling down is often seen as the last big leap into proper adulthood, and they fear that it means giving up a lot of the freedom they enjoy. Nick and Jess on New Girl didn't work out their first time around because Nick was afraid of committing to their future, or really any adult future at all.
I'm sorry that my only doctor friend is a gynecologist, but you're broke. So you're gonna have to shut your mouth and you're gonna tag the things that you want in this lucky magazine.
Their timing just wasn't quite right. She was ready to start taking big steps forward, and he definitely was not.
What do you want from me, Jess? I just want you to take a little more responsibility.
But in the end, Nick did manage to overcome his fear of commitment and adulthood, and they worked everything out. Sex and the City's Carrie Bradshaw constantly ran from commitment, except to the one guy who was not willing to commit to her, of course. She was unsure of her relationship with Aiden pretty much the entire time they were together, and every time he attempted to take things to the next level, it absolutely freaked her out. She preferred the idea of big because she preferred acting like big. She didn't want someone who was going to expect a lot from her, or always be there, or be seeking commitment from her.
Okay, I have something to tell you, and you're not gonna like it. I'm having an affair with Big. And also, I'm smoking again. I'm smoking, and I'm sleeping with Big.
While she says she wants Big to commit, to be ready to settle down, what really continues to draw her to him is the very fact that, just like her, he never really will. Fear of commitment is often born out of very real, deeply hidden issues. One day's Dex is a playboy who's not interested in giving up his partying ways to settle down. He avoids putting his full self into anything, his relationships, his career, because he feels like if he doesn't fully commit, then it won't be his fault when things go wrong. He held anyone and anything that really meant something to him at arm's length because of his insecurity in who he was, and his self-destructive nature made it hard for anyone to even try to get close to him. But after a very long journey of personal growth, he does finally face that fear head-on and find the courage to commit to the love that's been right in front of his face all along.
It's the first draft.
We grew up together. I liked that.
On Friends, Chandler Bing is initially a huge commitment phobe, constantly breaking up with women for the silliest reasons.
Broke up with her.
Oh, why? Don't tell me. Because of the big nostril thing?
How many perfectly fine women are you going to reject over the most superficial, insignificant...
At its core, the issue stems from him being scarred by his parents' divorce. Watching their breakup made him distrustful of the entire idea of relationships. When he eventually gets together with Monica, his old fears start creeping back in and he starts looking for the exit.
You are obsessed with babies and marriage and everything that's related to babies and marriage. You know what? I got a good idea. Why don't we turn the heat down on this pressure cooker?
But Monica, being Monica, is willing to take control of the situation.
Chandler, this isn't about me. This is about you and all your weird relationship commitment crap.
And help steer him towards healthier coping mechanisms so that he can overcome his commitment issues and be a good partner.
You know when I said that I want you to deal with this relationship stuff all on your own? Well, you're not ready for that.
I didn't think I was.
Often the biggest step to getting over a fear of commitment is getting over your fear of being yourself and being truly seen by the other people in your life. Sometimes this can be sparked by finding the person they really do want to be with and realizing that they've got to get their act together. Other times, characters continue to feel like long-term commitment isn't for them, but not because they're afraid or hiding something about themselves, but just because they've found other things they want to focus on. Maeve began sex education afraid to commit to her relationship with Jackson, and then went on to have an on-again, off-again relationship with Otis over the course of the show. They didn't end up together in the end, but not because she was afraid of committing, but because she wanted to chase her dreams. Love isn't a magic cure-all, and it also isn't something to be afraid of. Opening yourself up to another person, or persons, fully and really committing to a relationship can be scary, but in the end, it can be worth taking the leap.
I don't believe in soulmates either.
You don't?
No. I don't think that you and I were destined to end up together. I think that we fell in love and we work hard at our relationship.
Are we finally moving into a new age where the single lady is aspirational? Being single has always carried a greater shame for women than for men, but the single lady on screen today is defined by a newfound freedom and excitement. So what are the modern version of this trope's characteristics? She's promiscuous and proud of it. The single lady isn't necessarily anti-monogamy eventually.
I'm only 27. What am I, a child bride? You know, I don't know that I never want it. I just definitely don't want it right now.
But for now, she's enjoying her dating life, and she doesn't have to face the same level of judgment about that as in previous eras. Being single is her choice, not some desperate last resort, but an embrace of possibilities.
Are any of you in relationships?
Oh, no thank you. I didn't come to college to be tethered to some dude I dated in high school.
At the same time, it's not always a choice that's respected or understood.
I don't want a boyfriend.
I don't get it. Having a boyfriend is the best thing.
Not everyone truly gets the single lady because what she wants is different from what a lot of society tells us we should want. And still, in most examples, she's only temporarily single. While there are more characters who are single for long stretches of the screen time we spend with them, they often end up settling down. It's rarer to find stories of women who stay single as they get older and are happy about it.
I'm moving in with my girlfriend, Deborah. She is amazing. She makes me feel whole.
Really?
Oh my God, this is too easy. No, I don't want to settle down.
While she may still have her challenges, the single lady has come a long way from being shunned to being celebrated. Here's our take on today's updated single lady trope and how it shows there's more than one way to lead a happy and fulfilling life.
I would say I outdid myself, but I'm always this good. So I simply did myself.
first, let's talk about what today's positive depictions of singledom are moving away from, the dreaded spinster archetype.
Do you know what I touch? Here?
Your heart.
Broken.
This archaic term was originally used for women who spun wool going all the way back to the 1300s, but it became associated with women who were poor, single, and unlikely to ever marry.
I do not need a blind date, particularly not with some verbally incontinent spinster who smokes like a chimney, drinks like a fish, and dresses like her mother.
Our archetypal spinsters are characters like Great Expectations' Miss Havisham or Emma's Miss Bates, older women who are resigned to a life of loneliness, who might have become bitter, detached from reality, or leaned into their annoying habits, and who we're at best invited to pity. So this archetype created a cultural fear of spinsterdom which carried throughout the 20th century.
I shall be sure to say 3 dull things as soon as I open my mouth.
Mom, but there's the difficulty. When have you ever stopped at 3?
And it gave rise to the unlucky in love single lady. Her singledom doesn't feel like a considered independent choice. It's born out of sadness and frustration. The perennially single Bridget Jones fears spinsterdom most of all, equating not settling down with a husband with a life that's not even worth living.
I have 2 choices: to give up and accept permanent state of spinsterhood and eventual eating by Alsatians, or not.
But while Bridget and others like Carrie of Sex and the City do eventually end up with their dream men, along the way these characters and we come to appreciate just how great they are on their own, and how that men really shouldn't be the answer to their gaining confidence and feeling complete.
Relationships fall apart. The best we can do is breathe and reboot.
Ally McBeal is another character from the late 90s and 2000s era who's professionally accomplished but feels unlucky in love. She's not only tortured by working closely with her one who got away, she's explicitly haunted by visions of a dancing baby and the loud ticking of her biological clock. Still, her ending isn't getting a man, but finding out she has a daughter from having donated her eggs 10 years ago, and the satisfaction she always looked for in relationships she ends up finding in her child.
Now what?
Now I show you your room.
Meanwhile, countering social expectations, there were earlier examples of single ladies who seemed anything but miserable. In the 70s, Mary Richards of The Mary Tyler Moore Show was perfectly happy in her career-driven life as an unmarried 30-something, dating men without striving to snag a husband, and staying single throughout the show. At least until the 2000 TV movie revealed she's been married.
I mean, sure, true, I'm not what you'd call a wild woman, but I'm hardly innocent. I've been around.
Iconic single lady Roz in Frasier, starting in 1993, also seemed pretty happy with her life. While Roz occasionally voices common fears about ending up alone, she ultimately finds contentment in being a single mother. And what made Roz especially trailblazing is how she openly enjoys the sexual freedom and excitement of dating life, having a lot of casual sex and being vocal about the men she finds attractive.
Are you quite finished undressing him with your eyes?
Oh, please. I'm already looking for my stockings and trying to remember where I parked my car.
The other characters tease her about her sex life, but Roz is never ashamed of it.
Sex.
How can I help you?
What do you do when the romance goes out of a relationship?
I get dressed and go home.
Almost a decade later, another breakthrough single lady character came in Sex and the City's Samantha, who strongly prefers singledom and fears monogamy.
I saw the ring and I threw up. That's not normal.
That's my reaction to marriage.
So over time, through these characters, singledom increasingly becomes cast as thrilling, fun, and full of opportunities, a defiant show of independence.
I still think sex is better when it's with someone you love and it's an expression of your commitment. Ow, damn it!
That is so boring, Kimberly. I'm with you, Whitney. Sex is better with strangers.
Maybe the most crucial thing about the free and single lady is how sex positive she is. She's not just staying at home, she's getting out there, meeting different people, and having a good time.
Have you ever been set up on a date with someone whose name you didn't know?
Oh, please. I've woken up with dates whose names I didn't know.
Samantha Jones's singledom gives voice to female desire. Through sleeping with a variety of people, she has the opportunity to find out more about herself and have experiences that the other girls aren't as open to.
Yes, ladies, I'm a lesbian.
While other characters like the idea of falling in love and settling down, Samantha prioritizes pleasure above all else.
Marriage doesn't guarantee a happy ending, just an ending.
Like Samantha, Roz from Frasier has to deal with the reality that not everyone around her understands or respects her singledom.
Roz is a failure at love. Roz can't find a man.
They don't really say that, do they?
Oh, you haven't met my perfect sister, Denise.
But others' disapproval isn't enough to make her commit to the wrong guy. She likes men, likes having sex, and isn't necessarily focused on settling down unless the right person comes along.
Ross, why is that every time we try to have a serious discussion, we end up talking about your sex life?
Because I have one.
These characters normalized female desire in the culture, and they helped make space for characters in our era who enjoy sex without that having to be their defining trait. For Bella in The Sex Lives of College Girls, sex is one of the things she's most excited about entering into this new environment.
I'm super sex positive. In theory, more than inexperienced, and I am ready to smash some D's.
But her story arc is most focused on how funny she is and how she aspires to become a comedy writer. Chewing Gum centers around the exploits of Tracy, who's determined to have sexual adventures, but as an inexperienced religious virgin, she hardly fits any of our preconceptions of who the promiscuous single lady is.
Forget your virgin and channel your slut. Do you want to suck his or Smiley?
Neither. In Broad City, Abbi and Alana are both promiscuous single ladies, but the beauty of that show is how it focuses on their relationship rather than their respective quests for relationships. They find solace, value, and companionship in each other, and so maybe don't see the need to get this from the men in their life. While these are young singletons, we're also seeing more stories about women experiencing the dating scene in other life phases, whether because they've gotten divorced, widowed, or never married.
As for love, well, anything's possible.
Grace and Frankie, about two women whose husbands leave them after falling in love with each other, explores being single later in life, showing how things like female desire and feeling sexy don't have a shelf life, and how being single can unlock these feelings.
If anybody's gonna sit on Ryan Gosling's face, it's gonna be me.
These stories recognize there are still challenges that come with being single, moments of loneliness and criticism from outside, but most of the time these characters find comfort from within instead of validation from without.
A big part of me really wanted to have kids, but I guess an even bigger part of me wanted something different.
Many of our film and TV stories deliver romantic union as a happy ending, and there's often a feeling that successful relationships are rewards given to characters who've done their time as single ladies. In Insecure, Issa and Lawrence break up in the first season, but their personal journeys of self-discovery eventually lead them back to each other when the timing is right.
Tonight made me happy.
You make me happy.
Meanwhile, Issa's best friend Molly has spent years as a modern, unlucky-in-love type who really doesn't want to be single but can't find the right guy. Molly's arc requires her to stop trying to control her love life and to get more comfortable with her single self. But after she does that, she gets to find a great guy who appreciates how wonderful she is. Peggy in Mad Men, too, is perennially single for the majority of the show, her romantic partners being more casual while she flourishes in her career. But by the end, she and Stan get together, almost like her romantic success is put on the same level as her personal success.
I love you, Peggy.
Oh my god. Many of these characters still bring positive associations to singledom because most of the screen time we actually spend with them is when they're not coupled up, but it's also important to see examples of characters who stay single to remind us that relationships aren't the be-all and end-all and that fulfillment can come from within. Rebecca Bunch in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend at first seems determined to live out a rom-com fantasy, traveling across the country in pursuit of her dream man. But as we get to know her, the story becomes less about that and more about her mental health, and so her staying single by the end feels like a necessary, honest, and important step in her journey toward recovery.
When I'm telling my own story, for the first time in my life, I am truly happy.
Spinster explicitly deals with our latent fear around being single and older. In this case, 39, so not even that old. But the film challenges that fear with its heroine Gabby deciding not to pursue a relationship and to instead pursue her dream of opening a restaurant.
Nobody's single by choice.
Well, I am. And there's actually a lot of benefits to it.
Even to this day, though, it still feels like there's a pressure on creators to push characters together to please audiences, like how fans clamored for James and Aaron to get together in Dairy Girls, or Mike and Eleven in Stranger Things.
Mike, 11, ship it till the end, you guys. It's happening.
Sex and the City moved toward a place where it felt Carrie and Big had to end up together for that rom-com happy ending. Still, when it came time to reboot the series as And Just Like That, the creative team killed Big off. And this felt driven by the fact that watching Carrie as a single woman in her Manhattan playground is a lot of the fun and excitement viewers enjoyed about the show all along. And sometimes it is sad when people who are good for each other don't end up together, but that's okay too.
Forget about everything. Is this what you really want, Molly?
When Alexis doesn't end up with Ted in Schitt's Creek, it hurts, but it's a mature decision taken by the both of them, and we're left with the feeling that the door isn't fully closed.
Can't say that we didn't try.
I love you, Ted.
I love you too.
Staying single needn't be a tragedy, and it needn't always be a defiant anti-monogamous statement, but sometimes it can just be the right thing to do. For generations, relationship narratives have been structured around the idea of finding the one.
I turned to a friend for comfort. And instead, I found everything that I'd ever been looking for my whole life.
But perhaps that's something that we as audiences need to unlearn too. We don't need stories to glorify singledom, but we can learn from stories that show the importance of paying attention to what you need and how that's the real path to happiness and fulfillment, not simply avoiding the misery of being alone. That's The Take. Click here to watch a video we think you'll love, or here to check out a whole playlist of awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.